Good
Mm.
afternoon, Dave. So nice to see you.
Good afternoon, Heather.
How are
And
you today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm really happy to have the chance to talk to you today. So thank you. I'm just going to begin with by reading your bio, and then I'll give a little introduction about the project, and then we'll begin. Okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Great. I am reading from another screen. That's why I keep looking back and forth. Here's your bio. David Mike Legrand, who prefers to be called Dave Legrand, was born in 1995 in Haiti and now lives with his family in Adelphi, Maryland. He speaks French, Creole, Haitian Creole, and English. He moved to the United States in 2017. He studied studio arts at Montgomery College and transferred to Cornell in 2020. Dave is completing his BFA in Fine Arts at Cornell University and will graduate in May of 2023. Congratulations, you're so close. And he will start his MFA at RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, in the fall of 2023. That's a big deal. Congratulations.
Thank you.
In his spare time, he enjoys researching new Francophone writers and drawing. All right, well, thank you so much. Let me give a little intro of the project that I'm working on. My name is Heather Bruce Satram. I teach an ELAP, English Language for Academic Purposes, at Montgomery College. This project is called History in the Making, documenting stories of immigrant and refugee students at MC. And the goal is to help others better understand the experiences of immigrants and refugees in the United States. So telling your story will enable others to better understand the challenges that immigrants face and better appreciate the resilience and perseverance of people in your community. I am grateful for your participation. You had a
Thank
chance
you.
to read the questions in advance, but please note that all of the questions are optional. And if you want to skip a question, that's fine. We can move ahead. If you need a break, that's fine too. We'll talk for about an hour. Today is Monday, May 1st, 2023. It's about 5 p.m. Could you please tell me your full name?
My full name is David Mike Legrand.
And do I have permission to record this interview?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, you are about to graduate with a degree from Cornell, an Ivy League institution, and you're going to continue your studies at RISD, one of the most prestigious art schools in the United States. How does that feel?
Well, honestly, it's like unbelievable because I've been going like I've been having like ups and down because like I just couldn't believe it. I remember back in Haiti, I have a cousin of mine. We used to make plans about like attending the top schools in the world and like seeing that like near completing my, my degree is just like, I mean, I made it, but at the same time, I still cannot believe it, you know. And also the fact that I'm transferring, I'm graduating and then doing my MFA at another like top schools in the art schools in the world is something that even my professors complimented me. And when they were like doing so, I still couldn't believe it. Like it's something that you should be proud of,
It's a very big accomplishment for
at the
sure.
same time, I just couldn't understand like how big is it until like they sat me down and like taught me through like what it takes to graduate like from like a top university, Cornell, and then transfer to another schools where like people would usually take a year or two like that year before they start like the MFA. So yeah, I'm just like happy and
You must feel fantastic.
yeah, definitely.
So tell me a little bit about your art. I know that you work with different media, that you do painting and sculpture and drawing, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about it.
Well, like when I started like drawing, uh, that was like back in 2016. It was mostly drawing. Like one of the reason why is because like I like art materials in Haiti are kind of expensive. So I had to like figure out a way to like keep like pushing my practice. So it was like mostly drawing. But after I transferred here, I was like offered like opportunities to like explore and expand like that practice. So I ended up trying out painting and then sculpture, which like I keep doing right now.
Do you identify as a Haitian American artist? And if so, what does that mean to you?
Well, that's a good question, but no, I do not, unfortunately. Like one of the reason why is because I do not have American citizenship. So I identify myself as an Haitian artist.
And tell me, when you were growing up, when did you first realize that you really loved art?
Well, that's also a funny story because I think even though I grew up around people who were making art, my dad, my uncle, I also had one of my aunts making art. I was not really like drawn to it until like years later. It's like 2016, like late 2016. But at the same time, cannot like I cannot forget like the influence that I had from those people. You know, even though I was not practicing it, and like just like observing and appreciating art like contribute to like what I've been doing lately as an artist. So
So it sounds like you grew up in a very creative and artistic family.
I do.
Lots of artists.
Yeah, artists, writers, and also librarians.
That's great. I love that. Um, are you familiar with the artwork of Titus Caffar?
Actually, I do. Like I came across him, I think in 2021 after during a create that I was having, and like one of the professors told me that, well, like seeing the kind of art that you're like making and like the subject matter that you're trying to treat, this is like an artist that I feel like would be beneficial to your practice and also to your discourse about like as a Black student and also as a Black artist. And yeah, and I just love, there's like one of his work that I really love, A Fight for Remembrance. And I don't know, there's like something about like this work that really moves me as an artist. And yeah, I keep like looking back at him, even though I'm like exploring other subject matter in my like artistic practice.
I'll include a link later to an image of that so that people who are watching this video can see it. What is it about that artwork in particular that you find particularly interesting or moving?
Like I've been like the kind of work that I've been like making is has a lot to do with memory, but at the same time, like I have to acknowledge that memory can be faulty and it's not everything that you remember. It's not because you remember something that is like accurate. So like my work is to like revisit like places or stories and then try to like put them in the context that they were in. And this work, like this artist, like Titus, I feel like he's doing something similar in that with the title of A Fight for Remembrance, you know. So
That makes sense. And the reason I ask you is in one of my classes, we listened to a TED Talk by Titus Caffar, who's not Haitian. He's African American. And the name of the talk is Can Art Amend History? And it has to do with public art and public monuments. And I feel like in the past few years, especially with Black Lives Matter, there's been a real reckoning with public monuments and who is represented in public art. And I also asked because Caffar is based in New England now, I think in New Haven, Connecticut. So I was curious if his ideas resonated with you. He's got another TED Talk called Can Beauty Open Our Hearts to Difficult Conversation? And I think it's like it's such an important question about art. And is that important to you, opening to difficult conversation?
definitely. But it was not always like the case because even though we were like dealing with like similar situation in Haiti, but it was not as prominent. But like coming here, like completely changed like how I see like things, and also my environment, and also the way I approach my art. And I started like making work that would like start or spark conversation with other people, even though sometimes they might not have any like interest in talking about it. At least that could be like a conversation starter somehow.
That makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, interesting. All right, let's go back very to the beginning. Where and when were you born? And tell me a little bit about the place where you were born and about your neighborhood and community.
I was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti in 1995, and like I think around like when I was 3, we moved to Petite Rivière de l'Artibonite, and that's where I grew up and started going to like school. And honestly, it was a vibrant community. I mean, yeah, we had, like problems and stuff, but I had like relatively like good life compared to like other people. And like I learned like so much because like the community was particularly interested in like you know growing stuff. Not There was not a lot of technology. We were more interested in books, so I grew up with a lot of books, so reading was like a big part in of my childhood. That's why I keep like it's like the habit of my day, carry around, and like and I incorporate it in my practice as well. But yeah, I did a lot of like I used to go to like rice field with my grandma. I used to take part in like harvest season, when the gardeners they're like harvesting stuff. And it's like such a like at the time I did not understand like what it meant like to take part in stuff like that. But now that I'm like really far away and I'm looking back at it, I'm realizing how lucky I was at the time to take part in such practice that like bring people together, even though it was like a small part of like the year, but still.
Do you think that growing up with being close to the natural world, the way you described, and without a lot of technology, that helped you to be more creative or to be more connected to your community?
Honestly, yes. Because at the time we didn't have like phone. We had TVs and stuff like that, but it was like this practice where even though you had it, you would like invite your friends over like to watch a movie. Well, I just like came across this movie. Do we want to watch it together? It's like this kind of practice. I have the TV and my friends are bringing snacks and someone else is bringing, juice or lemonade. Like it's even though it was like technology was part of it, but there was like this practice of like getting together because we wanted that, that time, not like this practice where you just like by yourself and doing things on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it hard to have those kinds of experiences in American culture?
Honestly, yeah. Like, but for many reasons, at least from my personal experience, like I feel like the American culture is like a fast-paced environment. Like everyone is always on the go, and we cannot judge them. It's not their fault. It's just how like the system is. But in Haiti, it was like more laid back, like slow, like a slow-paced environment. So even though it's like difficult, but some people like when it's like when you want to spend time with them, you just like make time, even though you know that you're busy. But that's also like part of like this idea of like getting together with people.
Do you think the slower pace helps cultivate creativity and helps artists?
Like honestly, yes. It has like its good side because there are worries that you do not have. And once you do not have those kind of things, you have more like room like to foster like other thoughts, you know, and also think more. like openly about like what the next step is, not because it's like coming fast, but it's like something that you're like looking forward to. So
Yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned that there are librarians in your family and that books were important to you growing up. Are there any Haitian writers that are particularly important to you? I'm thinking of, for example, Edwidge Danticat. I don't know if there are others or if her work is important to you. Are there any writers you want to mention that have influenced your thinking or that are important to you?
well, there are quite a few. And one of them, well, he's a contemporary Haitian writer who's living in France. His name is Mackenzie Ossel, and he's been like making a wave with his last book called Une Somme Humaine. And I thought, like, I have read like all of his books, and like the way he's describing like Haitian like culture and how he's like bringing it to the front of like international scene is like really interesting to me because we've been like neglected, even though we were brought up when it's like convenient, but at the same time neglected. But the way that he's like bringing back and people are like they have no choice but like to face it is like something that I'm really proud of. So yeah, I love him.
I'll include a link to his work as well. Um, Something that fascinates me is Haitian Creole, and I've had the opportunity to attend a few programs and lectures at Montgomery College to learn more about this language that I think for a long time was considered to be more like a dialect, but now there's more acknowledgement of how rich a language it is with its own grammar and vocabulary and rules. And I think it's really interesting that recently, last year, the New York Times ran this series of articles about the history of colonization in Haiti, and they published it in English, French, and Creole, if I remember this correctly. And I think that probably was the first time that the New York Times had published in this language, and which made it accessible to so many more people to learn about this history. And so there's a very long way of asking this question about language. And could you talk a little bit about what language you spoke growing up, what language you spoke in school, and your feelings about Creole?
Well, that's also another difficult question because I spoke both Creole and French, but like that dynamic between Haitian Creole and French is kind of complicated in Haiti because like the majority of the population speaks Creole, but the language of instruction and administrative is French.
Mm.
So there's like this dynamic where if you go like to I don't know, a public institution where you're trying to get help, you might get like looked down on or like rejected somehow if you like address like the receptionist or whoever is trying to help you in Creole. But they'll be more inclined to help you if it's like in French or if it's like any other foreign language.
So in a way, French is kind of a barrier to separate the people from
The
the elite.
people exactly. Even though we're like in the same like community, like if you speak French, you'll be like taken more seriously, like somehow.
So did you, when you were growing up in your family, did you speak Creole and then at school you learned French?
It was like I didn't have that problem because my family we spoke both Creole and French, so it was not a problem. Like for me, until later when I started like thinking about it, that was like in high school. Like I had this talk with one of my professor who was like an anthropologist, and then he was like explaining to me like the dynamic because at some point I was like interested in like culture, and he wanted to at least initiate us to like this dynamic between Haitian Creole and French as official language of Haiti.
Interesting. Um, I'm interested too to know about how you feel about how Haiti is depicted sometimes in the media. I think that often when people hear about Haiti, there are images of like the earthquake or poverty. And do you feel like, in a way, that kind of image in the media creates stereotypes about who Haitians are?
Oh, definitely. And I said it, and I'll keep saying it. Like the media, they like show what works best for them. And when it comes to like representing Haiti, like they like talk about history when it's like convenient for them. They show like the earthquake because it's convenient for them. They show like poverty because it's convenient for them. But they're like also, I'm not saying that those are not part of Haiti. They're also part of Haiti, but at the same time, there are other sides that also represent Haiti, but they do not show like, those kind of things. Like why? Like that's also a question that I keep, you know, asking myself and asking other people if they have the answers.
So being a Haitian, do you feel like sometimes people stereotype you? And do you feel like as an artist, you have an opportunity to maybe portray Haiti in a different way that people don't usually see?
Well, definitely. And at the same time, like I do not. There's like this. I forgot his name, but there's this artist that I really love, and he had an interview recently, and then he was talking about his experience as an artist. And one thing that he said was that when they are referring to him, they do not say an artist; they say a black artist.
Hmm.
Because he said, yes, I am like an artist, and I like the big black experience, but that does not necessarily like make me a black artist. Why is it that when a white person or a white artist is like making art, they do not refer to that person as a white artist, you know? And it's like I feel like the same with that level of like Haitian artist. I'm an artist, whether I go, I'm living in Haiti, whether I'm living in the United States or somewhere else, you know. Like
I
art,
think Georgia O'Keeffe had a similar take on that. She's like, why do they have to call me a woman artist?
art, exactly, you
You know,
know.
just like more than that, right? Like being a woman, of course, it's important to her identity, but she's like, I'm just so much more than this
But
one label.
then just a woman artist, all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's really interesting. Um, yeah, and I think in the United States, we often do that, like as a way to, I don't know, express our roots or our culture, but sometimes perhaps it can be a bit limiting if you're put into
Yeah.
boxes. Yeah, I see that. That's interesting. Um, let's go back a little bit, talk about like when you were growing up. Tell me a little bit about your family. You mentioned your grandmother was important to you.
Yeah. Sweet old lady, honestly. And yeah, like growing up, like she used to be what people would call like a street vendor because she didn't have at the time we didn't have like the facility to have like a proper like place for her to have like her stuff. But it was like that at the same time is also a big part of like the Haitian culture. You know, even though some people, even though they have like the proper facilities at some point, they're still attached to like this lifestyle of like going around like streets and just like sell stuff, you know. And there's like this big like cultural practice, and like those people who refer we would call them Madasara, and they're like those people who basically women and also like some men. So basically they like work from dusk till dawn, and the next day they'll still like keep doing the same thing. They like eat as they're working. They like sometimes stop along the way to shower and then be on the way. And I feel like at some point, even though my grandma didn't do all that thing, but she is definitely part of like that category of like these women were like doing like everything that they can to like take care of their family. And like when I say like thinking back about those moments, I just feel I just realize how lucky I am that I had someone to take care of my mom, guiding her. And now she's like doing the same thing for me, and that's also like the start of my project for the past 3 years.
Tell me more about that
So
project.
yeah, the project is called Ephemeral Places, and also Madasaya, which is like those people that I'm trying to at least acknowledge. And basically, Ephemeral Places is this project where like I'm trying to sometimes when I go back to Haiti, I take like pictures of like those places that my grandma told me about or I have seen for myself. And from the stories and the detail that I got, I'm trying to reconstruct those places and place those people back in like those places, because those places they have like a sentimental attachment to those places, and not just them but also to me, you know, because they influence the way that I was grew up. And yeah, that's like the dynamic between it's like a memory and also yeah, storytelling.
When you talk about your grandmother and the values that she passed on to your mom and the values that your mom passed on to you, this idea of like taking care of your family and um, it sounds like you're talking about hard work and caring for people. What sort of values do you think were really important to your grandmother and mother to teach you?
Well, one thing that I was like taught growing up is that love is important, but at the same time, if you have even if you do not love someone, if you respect them, we can start something.
Mm,
So I see respect as like this space where even though there is no love, we can like start a conversation. We can build something like side by side, because I know where my limits are, and you also know where your limits are. And we can still live side by side without, you know, bothering each other, without like infringing into each other's space, you know. And that's something that like I carry around like no matter where I go, is that if you respect me, I respect you. And from there we can, start moving forward.
that kind of respectful dialogue could be really helpful to improving American culture, I think.
I feel like that's like my personal take. I feel like most of the time, like people, they're just like trying to like put their ideas out there, but they do not take the time to like listen to what the other party is saying, you know.
Yeah, slowing down and listening is important.
It's also part of like that like I like allow you the time to talk and I listen to what you have to say. And like that's like the basic level of respect you can like show to someone, is that they took the time to listen to you. The reciprocity is also the same, you know.
That's beautiful. Is your grandmother still around? Does she know about
Yeah.
your education and success?
She actually just celebrated her birthday on April 29th. She turned, I think, 94.
Oh, wow. And does she live in Maryland now or
Yeah,
still
she also
in
lives
Haiti?
in Maryland with my mom and my sister.
So your mom, your sister, and your grandmother are all in Adelphi?
And my little brother, yeah.
Your little brother, okay. So what situation or conditions led your family to relocate to Maryland?
Mm, That's a good question, because my grandma, like she came here, I think 2 or 3 months after I was born. And she always wanted my mom to like be by her side. But my mom, she at the time she was working as a teacher and she really loved her job. And she didn't want us to just like leave everything behind and, you know, move somewhere else. But at some point after the earthquake in 2010, she thought, she started taking like the idea more seriously. But she wanted us to like finish high school at least first before we can actually, you know, like move. And yeah, even after like I graduated high school in 2014, I was like working, I was helping in a library, I was like doing other stuff. And I think 2015, I was admitted into like the public university in Haiti as well. But she didn't like tell us until like 2017, before like a few months before we left, that we were going to leave and like go like somewhere else and like start like anew basically. And honestly, it was, you already have like a life, you've built a life somewhere, and the fact that you had to like leave all that behind and start like from scratch was not something that I was like really like looking forward to, but I guess it worked out somehow.
So what emotions did you feel when you were told we're leaving Haiti, we're moving to Maryland? Like what went through your head?
I was confused. I was angry. I was happy, but I was sad, because even though like Haiti is, it's like difficult to make a life in Haiti. There's nothing better than home. You know? And yeah, I'm glad that I had the opportunity to like come here. And now that you know, I was given like opportunities to study here at Cornell, which is like amazing. And I'm going to RISD for my MFA. That's also amazing. But at the same time, there's like a part of me that is still like left behind in Haiti. And it's like, even if I go back, I will not be able to like get it back, because like a lot of things change. And I also like gained a lot of things here. So I guess I can still like face it, but there's like, I do not see how, at least now, to reconcile with that like part of me that I left behind, because from that moment that I left till now, there was like so many things that happened. I grew and I changed as a person, you know.
I think it's interesting that you use the word home, because a lot of students I've been interviewing have talked about this. When I say home, what does that mean for you? Where is home?
Uh, I guess I can call like Haiti my home, but at the same time, I feel like wherever I have my family, I can also call that place like my home, because that's like where I have like memories that I cherish, like people that I love, and that sense of security that I feel.
Do you consider Maryland in a way to be your home too?
I wouldn't say Maryland, but my family.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So when you first came here to the United States, I imagine that you had ideas in your head about what it would be like. And then there was the reality. I mean, we all have images of the United States from Hollywood movies and from pop culture and music. And how was it similar to or different from your preconceived ideas once you got here? What was the experience like?
Hmm. It's interesting that you mentioned like Hollywood movies and pop culture. Of course, I had like those ideas, about the American dream and all that. But at the same time, I feel like I was mature enough to know that it was not going to be like the way that it was portrayed.
Yeah.
And like coming here was like even more of a shocker, because like things were completely different I started like doing things that I was not used to. I was going to college and working at the same time, helping my family. And what else? And like there's like this you know, the economy, black and white, you know, um, the black community and police brutality and stuff like that. And like looking at the reality like in the face was like, well, like let's, slow down and like absorb all that. Because it was like a lot of things to take all at once, but at the same time, you didn't have time. I didn't have time to digest it all, and I had to keep moving. So yeah.
I think we're all still kind of digesting the
Digest.
year, right? Like the pandemic, and there's been so many examples of police brutality. I mean, so many things have happened in the past few years. And when I think also about the past few years, I think about temporary protected status for Haitians, which I think was taken away for a while and then restored. And, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about temporary protective status. I mean, it's not a long-term guarantee of stability, right? But that's how a lot of Haitians have been able to come. I see. Can you talk a little bit about like the instability of a temporary type program to help Haitians?
And it was like I was fortunate that I didn't come here as a like with a temporary status. Like I'm living here as a permanent resident. But at the same time, I had friends who went through the process, and I didn't live through it, but I could feel how scary it is to be making plans and not know whether or not they will still stand, the next day. So you had to live day by day, you know.
Yeah.
I live today and I eat, and then like tomorrow I wake up, nothing happened, and I'm grateful for it. There's like it's a good opportunity, but at the same time, you're being controlled by fear that tomorrow might not happen, and you might have to go back like somewhere that you left because you were looking for a better living condition, a better learning conditions.
Right. Right. Yeah, I imagine that that lack of permanency could make it very hard to make long-term goals or to know how to plan one's future. Can you tell me a little bit about how you first heard about Montgomery College and your experience there?
Like when I came here, 2017, like I was living with a cousin of mine at the time, and we were making plans to like get an apartment and then start like doing things on our own. And like one thing that I was told before I even left Haiti, it was like three 3 months prior. Like I one of my uncles sat me down and we're like having what he called like mental med talk. They're like,
Yeah.
well, you're going to a new place. There are like things that will be a shocker. You will have like good opportunities. And I know that you will grasp those opportunities. But at the same time, there are like things that you should be wary of and you should be careful like about those things. And one thing that you should be doing first, because you are young and you still have like a lot of time like in front of you, go to school. Because for people like us, our only way out is school. That's like, it's something that we value a lot in my family, you know, because I had one of my uncle who built like the first library in like this part of Haiti, particularly if you had the Latif in it. So he was like really adamant about like the value of education, and that's also something that he passed on to me. And I wanted to make sure that I respect him. Well, he passed away like a few years ago, but I wanted to respect like the value that he put on education. And that's why I decided, instead of like keep working, like go to school and learn something, and afterwards you can make plans and see like where things go.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience at Montgomery College, the English language classes that you took, or the art classes that you took? Do you have any memories of like particular faculty members or classes or resources that were particularly helpful to you?
Yeah, honestly, I have like so many great memories there because I started learning English by myself. But at the same time, when I got there, I had to take like the English test placement, and I ended up with Professor Amanda. And it was such an amazing class, honestly. And I remember like that one paper that I wrote about like what artists can do to influence society, and she loved it. And that's something that's like a memory that I cherish because, as you're like learning a new language, yeah, it was challenging, but the fact that I was able to like connect with those people, even though at the time my English was like lacking, is like something that I will keep cherish. And those people serve as like a base for me to be where I am right now. So English is definitely that class is definitely memorable. And I also had memories with Professor Catherine, Professor Kevin, and also Professor Kate with my drawing class. Honestly, because like those people, as I said, they serve as like basis for me to be where I am right now. I took like English class, and my English needed to be like college level, which I didn't know. To be college level, there's like college level English.
Hmm.
And they provided me with like what I needed, the knowledge that I needed. My drawing, I needed to improve my skill. Those people like helped me. Like somehow they were like the ladder that I needed to be right there. Right where I am right now. Without them, I wouldn't be like here. And it's like something to be grateful for.
Did you take drawing and painting and sculpture classes at MC?
Yeah, I did. I did. And also like the sense of community that I had when I was at MC is something that I'm like not just like grateful, it's like something that I keep carrying with me. And like I'm proud to say that, well, actually I transferred from a community college. And it's not something that you like see like a lot, like here, a lot of transfer student from community college. They transfer from other like 4 years college. And the fact that I'm not gonna say that I was like an exception. I was like one of those people who transferred from a community college to like a like one of the like top schools in the state in the country. Like says a lot about like the knowledge that I received from there, you know.
Do you feel like there are stereotypes about community colleges?
Oh, yeah, but I just do not pay any mind. I was like, well, like first of all, I wouldn't be here if they thought that I was lacking. Like it's because they see something in me. And like the thing that they saw in me, it's not because I had them. I was somewhere and they provided me with like the resources and knowledge that I needed, um, which like pushed me to where I am right now. And I'm like proud to say that, well, actually, yeah, I transferred from Montgomery College. And, it's like this like moments where you tell them, well, yeah, I transferred from, I'm not, from like a 4 year college or anything like that. So, yeah.
Did you feel like Montgomery College prepared you well for your
Oh,
experience at Cornell?
oh, definitely, definitely. Because like when one one thing also that I keep talking about, even with my friends, is the fact that one of the professors who reviewed my application for my admission at Cornell University, she still remembered me, like my name, and she told me that, like they would like she wouldn't do something like that if there was not something in there. And that thing, as I said earlier, was not in me. Like as I came here, I transferred from somewhere, and that somewhere is Montgomery College. So I feel like they did a good job with like preparing me for Cornell University. So
Was it a big change to go to school up north in such a cold environment?
Honestly, winters here are so harsh. Like, oh, but at the same time, like in the summer is like really nice, and the fact that you, even though the temperature is like really bad, you still have like other people to complain with about the weather.
That's
Yeah,
true.
it's like really
Sometimes complaining can help.
like yeah,
So
it's
tell
like
me about transferring to, or sorry, applying to RISD. Tell me a little bit about that and your plans going forward.
well, actually, just I I knew even before coming to the States, I knew that I wanted to do like advanced studies, but at the same time, like I didn't have like the proper knowledge of like what is it specifically that I wanted to do. So after MC, like some of my professors told me, well, you can either go to like an art school, like to keep developing your practice, or you can go to a university where they have like a more interdisciplinary practice. So I decided that I'm going to like a university where they have like interdisciplinary practice. So I wanted to not just develop my skills, but at the same time develop like the knowledge that I have about like my field. And they really did a good job like preparing me for that. I went through like the process, and now it's like this next step from undergrad to grad school. That one was like stressing, like stressing like
Imagine.
no other. But at the same time, like it like I started preparing for it like a year in advance. Like since I was like a junior, I started like working on my portfolio because you know it's it's like common knowledge for undergrad student in our school not to be admitted into grad school because they want you to have like a year or two like outside of school, like accumulating life experience and like for them to see if you can sustain your practice. But some of my professors like told me that, well, actually, I have already seen that you can sustain your practice. And like from what you told me, like I told them, like they like told me that, well, you are like ready. It seems like you're ready, like to like go to grad school. And that's when that was like the green light for me to like go through like the application process. And yeah, I ended up applying for like 7 schools. I got into 5 of them, which they like told me was like amazing for an art student from undergrad to get accepted.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And yeah, it was stressing, but also the fact that I had like those people to like guide me in the process made it like way easier compared to if I was like doing it by myself. That's also
I'm sorry, go ahead.
about like the people that I had the chance to meet and like how much they contribute to like the person that or the artist that I'm like develop I guess I'm beginning to be. So
When you envision your future, say 5 years from now, what do you imagine or hope for?
not here or like when I was at MC or like right now.
I think like right now, when you think about, okay, 5 years in the future, do you
I
imagine yourself working as an artist in the States? Do you imagine going back to Haiti? Do you imagine living, I don't know, like in New York City or a city that's, more associated with the arts? Like, what do you hope for?
like 5 years from now, I'm hoping to obviously I'll be completing my like MFA and I will be working as an artist, but at the same time, I want to learn more about like conservation and restoration practices. That's also something that I'm really interested in. So I'm hoping that I will start like accumulating proper knowledge, maybe in school or like via work in a museum or like a private collection somehow. And as to where I will be living, I have not really thought about it. but I'm hoping it's gonna be like a community who like cherishes art as much as I do, and like use um or see art as like a way to open dialogue.
Do you imagine doing any work with young people in Haiti who are interested in art to encourage them?
Yeah, definitely. That's also like a plan of mine to open an art center in Haiti. I mean, we do have like quite a few, but the way that I want to see it is like this space where like I'm giving opportunities to those people and they do not see it as just like a simple opportunity. They could see themselves giving opportunities to like the next generation. And it's like this practice where you're passing down the knowledge that you have accumulated to the next generation.
I like that. There's a poet named Clint Smith who talks about that, how the word is passed, about the importance of from one generation to another. And I'm really glad that you mentioned like your grandmother and your mother and your uncle and
And
their influence. Like to be a part of that is a powerful thing. Do you have any advice for Montgomery College students?
I would say be bold because
I like it.
bold because do not limit yourself to like what you think you can accomplish because you have like things in you that you do not see because you're the biggest critic of yourself and you will like critique yourself in the harshest way possible. Just do not mind that and just like go for it because that's what I did. I applied for a bunch of schools and I didn't know like that I was going to get into any of them, but I just didn't let that like keep me back.
People,
And
I love it.
just like keep if you have something that you want to do, whether you think that you can accomplish it or not, just go for it. You won't know until like the final result is in front of you. So
I think that's excellent advice. Another question that I've been asking students in these interviews has to do with hope. And when you're going through a period of time where things are really challenging or stressful, or if you feel discouraged, what helps you get through those moments? What has sustained you?
well, that's a good question. Like one thing that I often like turns to is my family because like they have supported me for so long that I feel like it would be like a letdown not to keep going as like they're supporting me. That's like at least I see it as being counterproductive. And also like those people will believe that you accomplished something. Just do not at least in my case, I do not see myself letting them down because like they've seen something in me and they've helped me along the way. And they didn't do it because like they knew that I was going to stop midway. They keep pushing me because they know that like I can not just be like where I am right now, but be like further than that, be more than
At
what
your,
I think as.
I hope at your graduation ceremony that's coming up that you'll take lots of pictures with your family and send them to me, and then I can include that
So
uh, on the
definitely.
website. It'd be really nice for people who watch this video to see some of these family members that you've mentioned. Is your grandmother going to be there?
No, unfortunately, she cannot travel like really far. So it's
Mhm.
gonna be my mom, my little brother, and my sister.
They must be very, very proud of you. I have no doubt. So
Yeah.
how do you feel right now? What emotions are you experiencing as you think about this conversation that we had and reflecting on all these memories?
Honestly, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. And at the same time, like grateful that I had like to talk about like all those things that I had in me. And I was like feelings that were buried and I didn't have like opportunities to talk about them. And it's kind of liberating to just like let all that out. And like the fact that someone else will be watching this and someone who might be in the same situation as me or just similar situation would like see it as like this point where they would like reboot themselves and like keep pushing forward is something, I don't know, I'm glad I could be helpful, but at the same time, I'm like grateful like for the opportunity.
Well, we're grateful for you taking the time during this very busy time in your life to share your story. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to the conversation?
I don't know. It's just like there are moments where I mean things can be busy. Just like looking back and see like how far you've come, like all the steps that you've taken to be where you are, and look at the goals that you have in front of you. And do not like look at them in front of in the sense of like goals, but like the number of steps that you have, like until you reach it, and then just like make the next step. Do not think about like the amount of steps that you have, but just like see it as like one step after the other. And yeah, that's
That's actually a really lovely image to end our conversation on, the one step after another in the journey. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. And thank you.
Merci. Félicitations.
Merci.
Stop recording.